Alright, Lupinranger vs. Patranger is over. I have just watched episode 51 like 10 minutes ago, and there's no script for this. I just wanted to talk. I pretty much know how I feel about the show, so that shouldn't be too hard. And let me start by doing something I don't think I should have to do, but it's the internet, and we know how these things go. This is all my opinion. I shouldn't really have to clarify that, but I just want to point out that everything I say about this show is just how I feel about it. And if you feel differently, that's fine. That's cool. I don't think it's a big deal. So I hope you don't either. So to start off, I have a list of points here, but maybe I'll just kind of give overall thoughts. Lupat was not my favorite Sentai. I went into it when the concept was announced, and it was revealed what we were getting. I was excited. It sounded like a cool idea. Cops and robbers. That's a good idea. And two teams was interesting to me. I was a little worried because that was coming off of Ranger, a show whose big selling point and kind of gimmicky thing was big team. And I thought that in that show, it meant character focus got a little bit away from them. So I did have a little bit of like, even though the teams are smaller, are you going to have a problem with character focus when you're between two teams? And I'll talk about how I feel about that. But I like the idea. And when the promo started hitting, I thought this looks cool. I thought the promos were giving a little bit more time to the thieves, like just a bit. And I had some friends be like, well, the whole like Kaito Phantom Thief thing is popular in Japan. It's just something they like in pop culture. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I mean, and maybe that's just the way these are cut. And then we get the show. And I'm probably not going to say anything you haven't heard other people say online about this show, but I don't know. I just want to sort of talk about it, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad show. I want to start with that. Like, I'm not over the moon for it. I'm not especially positive towards it, but I don't think it's bad. And I also recognize with all of these, I'm not the target audience. This is aimed for a younger audience, and this is also aimed at an audience from a different part of the world, because cultures also interpret media and art differently. There's something to be said. I've learned recently via some people on Twitter that the adult fan base for Toku in Japan actually really likes this show, which is awesome. That's cool. I'd be curious to talk to some fans from Japan about what they like about it a lot, because I know over, here in the States and generally the Western fandom, I've seen opinions on both sides. I know people I'm friends with tend to agree with me about the show in not being super into it. But I've seen people who like it, and that's great. That's awesome. That being said, I guess I could just talk about what I thought about it. I want to start off with something positive though, and actually really positive. This show was stylish. Wow. Some of the best action I've seen in Sentai in a while, and a big part of that is the way it was filmed. That like mobile, like sort of fish-eyed camera they would use. I should know the terms for this. I went to film school, but you know what I'm talking about if you watch the show. That was like always moving really close throughout the fight. That was just one of like the coolest visuals I've seen. It was kind of like when Ranger would do a lot of the first-person camera for some of its fight scenes. Like when a Toku show, or really anything action-based has something really distinctive like that, it's just so cool. Like that was really cool. I loved the action scenes in this show. They were insane and weird, and it was cool. The show looked good too. Solid suit designs. Mecha looked pretty good. They actually used their CG budget very well. And I don't just mean for like mecha, though I thought there was some good use there. I mean like the VFX for like finishers and stuff were really good. I want to say it's the first time the thieves used the magic finish with the bow, and it's like that big intricate arrow that flies through like that kind of like weird 3D cityscape thing. That was like one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like, I could just watch fights from this show. Like, the Lupin Magnum was so cool. Some of the actual auxiliary weapons were cool. Some it sort of varied. I thought you could tell which ones were made to be auxiliary weapons and which ones, by which ones I mean Crane, were just the mech arm but a normal suit actor's using it. But man, the show looked good. The music was so good. It was like that kind of big band sort of jazzy vibe. It was really cool. I think it really went along with a lot of like the, admittedly more like the thief stuff, just because I think like they're like top hat, caped thief, like with that music fits. But that I think it fits the whole show, and it was really good. The theme song itself is a banger. Like, once I listened to it enough, I think the split songs, I think the cop one's a little better, but the mixed version is really good, and it's my preferred version. And then the characters are what I want to talk about next, because I actually have pretty positive things to say about the cast as well. I'll kind of just go character by character, I guess. I'll start with the Lupins. I like Kairi. He's a good, like, smarmy Red. I don't know that we've had a lot of Reds with quite his personality, because there is like a bit of like a youthful immaturity to him, but he's cool and usually calm, and just kind of a smart aleck, and I doesn't feel like something we've had in a Red in at least a long time, and that's always refreshing. I feel like this might be something other people agree with, but I feel like the Red is where a lot of people look for diverse personality, because they're just the one in the marketing, the one that leads the team. Their type is different. It feels a lot like the Red and the rest when it comes to personality, because you can sort of mix the rest among them. It's weird. I don't even know how to describe it, but he was a good Red. I believed his emotional beats, you know, that scene when his brother vanishes, and that like that scream he has was kind of wild. But, you know, when he had to cry, I really bought it. When he had to be serious, I really bought it. I thought he was really good. I like Toma, too. He's probably, of the three thieves, my least favorite, but that's not to say I dislike him. You know, he's the cool guy. A little more tropey, but I thought the way he warmed up with time was interesting. There were times where I felt like he warmed up a lot, and there were times where I felt like he was stepping back, but he stepped back in character. Like, he was the one who always was like, hey, maybe we should slow down with the whole friends with cops thing. But I liked him. You know, again, with all the Lupins, their motivation's very believable. His fiance being gone, I liked that when it came up, he was willing to be like sad or angry about it. You know, he didn't, those were not emotions he closed off. He more tried to hide like joy and excitement. But he was willing to be a little more vulnerable, and I appreciated that. And Umiko was good. I really liked her. She was, you know, she's the bubbly one, which is a little bit of like, oh, it's that kind of girl character. But I appreciated that she was kind of this mix of like the ditz in the context of the thieves, but then in a broader context, she was just as competent and tricky as the rest of them. You know, that episode where it was just her and Tsukasa, you know, she was able to kind of switch between being Umika and being the Phantom Thief just as easily. Her, like, lack of confidence was an interesting character arc and just idea that I thought they used very well when it came up. I enjoyed just seeing her sort of be like a little sister of the group, and as much as like there's a lot of levity in the show, but I like that she would be the one who brought in little bits of levity. Like, a lot of times they'd focus on her reaction to a situation, even if it's a little just like a face or a head tilt or something. It was good little stuff. Yeah, and I enjoyed all of them. As a unit, they felt believable. I liked how I did feel like they evolved from partners into friends, and that felt cool and natural, and like the way they did it in the finale when they throw the promise away was something neat. I liked them. They were a good team. And switching over to the Patrangers, I mostly like them. I like Keiichiro. He's also, I think, a good, slightly subversive Red in that he is a hothead and a loud boy, but he is also very serious, and it's often like anger. Not to say they don't play it for laughs, but, normally our loud, hot-headed Reds are silly and goofy, and they're your Deca Reds or your Kyoryu Reds. And it did feel kind of like an interesting subversion. I thought his like dedication to justice, because I was a little worried it was gonna maybe feel hokey. I don't know if that's the right word I'm looking for. There was the big thing of like why are they chasing the Lupinrangers when they're stealing from the monsters? And it was like, well, they're still breaking the law technically. And then episode like 2, they immediately interfere with an arrest, so they have real reasons now. But it didn't really bother me as much as I know in the past I was like, have they really done anything wrong? But like legally, yeah. And Keiichiro was interesting because he operated on a very strict moral code early on, and then when he realized what was going on, he was quick and appropriate to be like, oh, I want to help now, and that was good. The finale, when it's like they're back to fighting, is cute, and it doesn't bother me. It's interesting. I really do wonder what that rivalry is going to be like. It does make me a little sad that the bistro will no longer be a thing, because I would have liked, like what Umika said, for everyone to just hang out at the bistro. But I liked what they did there. But that was just a tangent, because I liked Keiichiro. I thought he deserved better at times. And his backstory was simple, and there's a thing I want to get into about that, but at least it was simple, and it's like the cop is a cop because a cop inspired him as a child, but I believed it, and I thought he sold it. Tsukasa, I'm gonna skip to Tsukasa. I also like Tsukasa. I thought she was a good, like, level-headed, cool big sister character. The like love of cute things and stuffed animals was a cool little, like, we're gonna give her another tiny layer of depth that I enjoyed. She was the reasonable one of the team, which I like, because Keiichiro can get in his own head too much, and Sakuya's a doofus. And I thought she was a good presence on the team. I really liked when, like, the Gangler was good, and that was her episode. As much as it's like a trope episode of the good monster, she was a good character to use for it. And I thought, I think a big thing is I never thought they treated her too badly as a female character, as Toku can want to be sometimes. And I'm sort of holding off on bringing that up for Umika, because I just need to. Sakuya sucks. I do not like Sakuya, and part of it is we know, like, the least about him. Like, I didn't mention it because I jumped ahead, but, like, Tsukasa, we also got backstory with her grandpa, and, it wasn't much, but it was something. I don't know anything about Sakuya. I don't know if maybe he had backstory in that, like, special about the former Green, who was, like, the partner before the show. We don't know anything about Sakuya's life other than that time we see his apartment and we saw flashbacks to, like, the police academy. It's just, his personality is, I'm the energetic rookie, and that's fine, but you don't give me more depth. And then just the whole thing with Umika, I did not like it. I thought he was creepy, and it was especially weird when there was that point where he talks to Noel and is like, I know she doesn't like me, and then his behavior doesn't change for the rest of the show. And it's even worse that she's, if not falling for him, then at least, like, coming around on him at the end. Like, man, I did not like that at all. I really just didn't care about Sakuya. That was one thing I did not like about the late game when the thieves were being revealed, is they wanted to put so much emotional weight onto Sakuya because he believed in them the most, but I just don't care about him. I don't like him, so him being upset doesn't get to me. Keiichiro, like, that moment when he's walking up to Dogranio with his gun, that was intense. Like, that really got me. I didn't care when Sakuya cried when they found out who the thieves were. I don't like him. And he's gross, in my opinion. I'm sorry. And it's not like the actor's fault or anything. I just don't like the way he was written. Anyway, Noel. I don't know how I feel about Noel. I thought he was fun enough. The human, not human thing was interesting, I guess. The French wasn't grating. My biggest problem with Noel is in, like, his debut, he was just like, I'm on the thieves side. And I'm like, oh, I thought, okay, so there's just no, like, his entire purpose for a while is just to misdirect the cops just enough to help the thieves. But also he was blatantly helping the thieves and everyone else in the police department knew it and brought it up repeatedly and could take no action against him, I guess. I didn't understand that. I don't understand why he's on the team. Like, I'm getting into, like, the legal implications of this children's show, but, like, why could they not, like, legally be like, we saw you help the thieves, you're under arrest? It doesn't make sense to me. Again, as a personality, he was fine, and his motivation was good, and it was weird because, like, as the show went on, he was like, I want everyone to achieve what they want, including the cops. I'm like, yeah, but you're just so flaky, and I just don't know. He's not my favorite Sixth Ranger we've had in a while. The two modes were cool. It was just, I would have, and I know with criticizing media, it's difficult to say this is what I would have wanted because it's not what we got, and your expectations, you have to curve them to an extent. But I'll just say, if I had my way, we would not have known his allegiance for a majority of the show, or if we did, he wouldn't have revealed it to either side. Like, even if it was, at the end of the day, he's a little more on the thieves side, I wish he kept everyone guessing. Honestly, like, he could have been more of maybe an outside loner character, maybe not really be with the cops, or just alternate identities. I don't know. I think it could have been done a little better. Yeah, and that kind of gets into how I feel about a lot of the show, which is I feel like things could have been done a little better. For starters, I think the show is not paced well at all. It's commonly kind of talked about that Toku can drag in the middle when it's like the full 50 episode shows because it's a lot of space to fill with plot, and I understand that. And you do have to work in merchandising, and sometimes you maybe have to dedicate time to filler that sells a new toy. And I get it, and I think it can be done fun, but, like, can be done fun. That's probably not grammar. It just, like, was real slow. It was so Monster of the Week, like, aggressively in a show with really intriguing ideas and setup. And I think maybe it's because they wanted to push just, like, the conflict between the teams, but, like, nothing happened. Like, it was episode, like, 30, and I'm like, I feel like I have 15 episodes worth of stuff to work with. And part of it's, like, really early on, they got the whole suspicious of the trio out of the way thing, so they could write it off and not have the show be about figuring out their identities for a while, but it just felt like nothing was happening for a while. It, like, every week was just get the collection piece, and it wasn't always fun. Like, there were fun filler episodes. I did really enjoy some. The Christmas episode was hilarious. Oh god, I love the Christmas episode, but there were so many times where I'm just like, all right, we're just gonna get through this episode, I guess, and nothing important's really gonna happen. And the thing is, I think this show does have really strong emotional beats when it's actually trying to hit them. When it wrote in conflict that felt bigger, like an episode that focused a lot on, like, one cop and one thief interacting, those were cool. You know, Kairi on vacation with Keiichiro was good, but so much of it was just me going like, okay, yay, another repainted Sentai toy out of the safe. Yay, the villains haven't done anything. Cool. And that was another thing, is the villains man, they don't matter. Like, wow, they don't matter. And I think the show just wanted to make the team conflict the bigger focus, but it just meant, like, every week it was just like, what's Dogranio gonna do? Sit in a chair and say that he thinks this week's monster is exciting. Like, the biggest secret plans they had was like, Ghosh made a bigger monster. Okay, we have to... And it was like, we all have to open the safes together, and that was a cool moment, but they kept building up, like, Ghosh is gonna do something really crazy, and she's got, like, the binoculars, and the binoculars ended up paying off, but I thought it was gonna go somewhere else. It kind of didn't. She just sort of was the knife lady who, I don't know. I'm not... It's tough for me to be like, well, this is what I wanted instead, but I just wish there was more substance to the Gangler. And I get that, again, it's a unique show where the team's conflict is sort of the focus, but it just made the episodes where there was no plot or real character-driven team conflict feel like boring monster of the week, because then it's like, I guess the conflict is fighting the monster, but I don't care about it. Speaking of not caring about monsters, wow, Zamigo, well, why weren't you in the show? Like, what a cool setup for this icy guy. He's in the opening before we know who he is. Who's this dude? And he's debuts, and he's cool, and we learn what went on, and then... Where did he go? Why was he gone for so long? How come when he showed up, he didn't do anything? He would just eat ice and watch, and maybe talk to Destra. Toward the end, when he finally started doing things, it was cool. And I enjoyed his actor and his ice puns. I think they were ice puns. Fan subs. I don't know. But man, like a literally cool villain. You know, he's a red rival to Lupin Red, but they just didn't use him enough, I don't think. And I understand that he drives a very important core element of their backstory, and you could overuse that, but man, he just didn't do anything. And the disguises thing was a cool twist, and I understand that you maybe can't build up to that as quickly, but you could build up to it at all. Like the guy that Toma recognized, that was late in the show. That was late. I don't know. They didn't do anything for me. Dogranio's final motivation being like, I guess I'll just go break things because being the boss is kind of boring. Sure. I don't know. I just didn't like him that much. They looked cool. You know, they had good, like, personality. They just didn't do a lot with it. So much of that, there's a part of me that's like, I know every complaint I have, someone out there disagrees with and wants to be like, but it was this and it was that, and like, I get it. I don't like not liking this, if it makes sense. I wish I liked it a lot more, but I don't, and I don't know. Again, if you like it, that's cool. That's awesome. I like talking about this, you know, regardless of whether I like the show or not. I like talking about it. So I guess that means the one big thing I want to address, which is the big discussion, is the whole balance of the teams. I'm in the camp that agrees the thieves definitely got more focus. That's the closest I can get to being like, that might be objectively true. I hesitate to say that, but like, it feels hard to make a case otherwise, but again, I could be proven wrong. I think one of the biggest things is that, for what I don't like about the Gangler, what they presented as a challenge to the Lupinrangers is interesting. Get the collection because Gangler have gotten rid of your loved ones, and it will help you get them back. Because if you think about it, all the Rangers in this show, you can describe their backstory in like one sentence. Kairi lost his brother. Toma lost his fiance. Umika lost her best friend. Keiichiro was inspired to be a cop by a cop. Sakuya isn't a character. Tsukasa was raised by a strict grandfather who imprinted certain mentalities and ideals on her that almost felt like more than a sentence. Noel might need more than one sentence, but you get the point. You can say they're all simple motivations. The big thing is, the Lupinranger's motivation ties into the villains. It is a very powerful motivation, and I felt it every time it came up. There's this sadness and urgency in everything they do. The Patrangers, it's weird because for me to say their motivation isn't powerful is dumb, because their motivation is to keep everyone safe. That's a very important thing. But it's just, there is this level of like, it's just they're doing this because they're cops. Like that's what it comes down to. They're cops. And now I've seen people be like, okay, but there are other Sentai teams where like they're doing it just because it's their job. Like the Decorators are just cops. Yes. But those teams aren't competing with another team for screen time and motivation and story relevance. And it just, it bugged me. It did. I wanted it to feel more equal. I wanted it to be about them. I wanted there to be more to it. I can't describe what it could have been with the structure of the show as it is. A buddy of mine have talked about this, and really, I think the best way to write this show might have been to just call it Lupinranger and have the Patrangers, they can be characters the whole show, but don't make them a team till later on. Like, have them get their powers later and come in as a second team like the Go-Risers, or like the way the Go on Wings are like a second team in also being Sixth Rangers. Like you can do that. It might not even necessitate bringing in Noel. You can probably find a way if you want to, but it could have been an excuse to not flesh them out a little more. I don't know. I think again, it's also because there's that point when the cops stop trying to look into who the thieves are, and that takes away something that could have been motivating them and been interesting, because the alibi happens already. I don't know. That's where I am. I am on the side that says the thieves got too much focus, and I don't know. I think they did. That's all I can say. Toy-wise, they definitely did. Oh my gosh. When they did Jackpot Striker in the movie, which let them do the Patranger fusion thing and give them a new mecha, but only them. Great. Cool. Thanks for that. And then when they got Splash, and then they got the Siren Striker. The Siren Striker, which has the cop logo on it, and says Super Kesatsu change when it's used, a sound they had to cut out every time they used it on Noel. Also, this is a really minor thing, but I hate that every time they used it, they flipped it onto the top, even though it's a trigger machine. That was a minor aesthetic qualm I had, is that what direction you flip it on the gun stopped mattering. Very minor, but those kind of things bug me. But I just, man, that really bugged me. There should have been a Super Lupin Red and a Super Patara and Ichigo the entire time, or, like, once they debuted. And also putting it on Noel, is Noel popular? That's not me being like, oh, he shouldn't be. That's just a question. Like, is Noel popular? Because if somewhere in the writing room they're like, we're gonna put the cop upgrade on a thief instead, is it like, well, Noel's popular, or was it just he's the only one of the thieves who can ride that line? I don't know. It was weird. I didn't care for it. It's a show with two teams in the name, and it felt mostly about one team because their plot was, interesting and well written. It's just they meandered through it, and it's just it's frustrating to me. I don't know. That's all I can say. I think it's also just because, and I talked about this a little when I did my little retrospective, I think lately Sentai kind of tries to sell itself on a gimmick more than a plot premise. Like Q-Ranger didn't really feel like the selling point was going to be the story. It was just kind of like, look how many of us there are. And this one was like, oh, but there's two teams. And it just, I hope Ryu Sojo is written well. Yeah, I don't know that I have much else to say. I didn't really mention side characters that much. I like Kogure. I like Hilltop. I was cool to see a black man with a prominent role in a toku show like this. That was cool. Jim was a nice robot, though his real arms were frightening the first time I saw them. Good Striker was nice. That's kind of the rundown there. I don't know. Coming off the finale, I feel good about it because finales usually leave you that way. I've enjoyed almost every Toku finale, no matter how I feel about the show as a whole. And it was a good finale. It felt good to watch. But as a whole, I mean, it did kind of just disappoint me. It's on the lower end of my Sentai rankings. And that sucks. I wish it wasn't. I wish I enjoyed it more, honestly, but I didn't, and that's okay. And for those of you who really liked it, that's cool. I'm glad. I like it when people get to like things. That's a good thing. We should promote that. Let people like things, as long as it's not a problem. Yeah, I guess that's it though. Thank you for listening. I will be back for Ryu Soldier once it begins, after our little intermission of Super Sentai Battle, whatever it's called. Until then, thanks for listening, and goodbye.